Okay, showtime. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hardfire Media Liberal Conversations. This is a series of screen media programs we're doing during the lockdown in the United States. We're still in the national emergency, right? one emergency after another. Anyway, we're still under a COVID era national emergency, and we've been having a series of shows to talk us through it called Liberal Conversations. The idea for the series comes from classical liberalism, which is based on free speech, freedom of religion, and equal rights under law. These discussions are available on our Hardfire YouTube channel, where we've made about 40 shows at the Brick Media Arts House, which is now closed. So we're doing our programming independently. These shows are also picked up on Brooklyn Free Speech, citywide cable TV, where they'll be appearing 6 times monthly, and the show just got renewed. So it'll be 3 times on the 3rd Tuesday of every month and 3 times on the 3rd Thursday of every month. And I'll send you the information on that, so you can share it if you'd like. My name is Cameron Weber. I'm an economist and historian and the producer of Hardfire Media. We have made 15 of these discussions so far since the March 2020 clampdown. I look forward to this one. This is a follow-on program that we did about 1.5 years, 2 years ago down at the studio before COVID, where we discussed the possibilities for more efficient and decentralized electrical production and distribution. Of course, the lockdowns and power shortages in certain places make this topic more relevant than ever. Thank you, Derek and Michael, for coming back on the show.
You're welcome. Great to be here.
So we've got Derek in the, Derek is a off-grid do-it-yourselfer, and he's going to share his experience with that you've done. You told me that you had anticipated some type of an emergency and were preparing in advance, and so that makes you a electric prophet or something. Okay, and so and we have Michael Weiss. He's a solar consultant and an on-site assessor. And I know Mike's been working on metering, right? So the price, as an economist, the price signal is very important. So anyway, thank you everyone for being here. So since our last—
Thanks, Cameron, and nice to see you, Derek.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Derek. Michael's got a very colorful background there. Very pretty background. So since our last discussion, I've learned that Derek has gone off grid, anticipating that there was some kind of event necessitating this, whereas Michael has been working on aspects of decentralizing the metering of electricity. We'll talk about these projects and other things. We've seen that state regulation of electricity has aided and abetted the California wildfires, as proclaimed by the state of California themselves by admitting their regulated utilities are one of the major causes of the fires. Did you both know that?
Yes.
Michael, did you know that the California regulator oh, we lost Mike. We lost Mike. So I'll put it on pause. Okay. As I was saying that, Michael, did you hear that the California utilities regulators have declared the fires man-made due to like PG&E, I know, for example, didn't maintain their transmission lines, and that aided and abetted the fires there. So we're looking at alternatives to the status quo, not least of which is fires due to the regulation of electricity.
Yeah, from what I understand, that was maintenance on the transmission lines and windstorm, right?
Yeah, and well, and then a lot of it was on public land, and people couldn't do their own burnings and things like that. So people weren't able to maintain their own properties. But so that's one of the things that we're talking about and interested in is microgeneration and micro distribution. anything that decentralizes power and improves the local price signal, I am all in favor of. And when I say decentralizing power is a good thing, I mean both state power and electrical power, as they can often be the same thing as in the PG&E situation. So let's start with Derek. Derek, can you tell us how you've been able to go off grid since the last time we spoke? And
Well, I've gone more off grid since the last time we spoke.
yeah,
I've been working with solar power for about the last 15 years
right.
in an attempt to go fully off grid. And during the summer months, when radiation is peak, I achieve it for a couple of weeks. But during the fall and especially the winter, I am sort of on a hybrid system, which I'll show you in a minute. I have about 6,000 watts of panels on the roof and on my shed, and they all lead. I might as well show you right now.
Yeah.
I'll reverse the camera. So
Yeah, thank you. So Derek's in an undisclosed location, showing us his off-grid power.
see how dark it is. This is what happens when you go off grid in the winter.
We had our
Okay.
first snow today. Yeah.
Okay, so this is one of the conduits that I drilled through the wall of the house. This has quite a few lines in it.
Wow.
I use 2 and 4 gauge wire. 6 and 8 gauge wire, and I run them up to the roof. And these are all the way running through the house into the basement.
Uh-huh.
And I'll take it further. They all converge.
Wow.
Some come from here. Some come. I did this in stages, as you can see, and they all converge right here at this breaker and this charge controller.
Wow.
Each breaker is several panels, and as you can see, it was a winter day. It was snowing most of the day, and I only generated 1.2 kilowatt hour the entire day. So that's not much. You could charge some phones off, you can run some lights off it, but it's not much. During the summer, I can get 8 or 9 kilowatt hour in a single day. So either way I set it up, either I have a huge excess in summer or a deficit in the wintertime.
Yeah.
That's the messiness of solar. Here are the 3 batteries I have. This is from a golf cart, and then these 2.
Interesting.
These 3 batteries. They're each about 200 pounds.
Wow.
Hmm.
So,
These
so
are-
you're Derek, you're actually able to store your energy?
Well, I can store about, those are 200 amp hour each, and then that one is 120. So I can store 720 amp hours of electricity, which is not very much.
That's
It
like,
really isn't very much. I mean, if I was just in a cabin in the woods and I had maybe a TV and a couple lights, yes. But if you want to run like an entire house, it really is not that much.
that's enough for a day or for a couple
It really depends on your usage. If you're going solar, you want to cut your usage down tremendously. You don't want to use regular appliances. You want to use dim lights,
right?
always energy efficient, undersized appliances. So you can't expect to run a microwave or a hairdryer. Certain things you want to look at what time of day it is before you use them. Don't use them on a cloudy day because you're going to drain your entire system.
Right.
So you have to modify your life to some degree. Here, this is the inverter. This is the inverter. This is what converts DC to AC. And right now you can see the battery bank is only at 10.4 volts, which is very low. When it drops to 9.7, the whole thing goes off. Because they didn't charge very much during the day, and of course they've been used also, so it really didn't have a chance to charge much today.
So if you lose power, then do you go back to the grid or?
Yeah, I have a transfer switch here.
Okay. That's the big one. Yeah.
And I set it up so that the solar is the default,
Right.
and Con Ed is the backup.
Wow.
So there are times when it may switch back and forth multiple times during a day. These things run out. These things wear out because the way I set it up, my system is kind of maxed out. So oftentimes it'll switch back and forth many times during a single day.
Okay.
So this switch tends to burn out more quickly than it should.
Well, because you also are a gardener, right? I mean, don't you have hydroponic plants and
Well, yeah, and also they're not on right now, but I'll turn them on just for a second so you can see. What I have here is, see if I can turn on just for a second.
Michael, do we in our co-op, do we switch on and off the grid like that?
No. And Derek, are you on the batteries now or Con Ed?
This part is on Con Ed. What I do over the course of the year is I have the house on multiple different lines.
Okay.
And what I do is during the summer, the entire thing is plugged in straight here. And then as it goes to fall and winter, I switch some things onto Con Ed because there's no, this is only going to work for an hour or two. So it gets kind of annoying. So little by little, so as it gets towards darker months, I switch more to Con Ed, and then as it gets to summer months, I switch more back to the inverter.
I see. Yeah.
Did you need to get permission to?
I have a good amount of draw because, as you can see, I breed reptiles.
Yeah.
And I have a frog hatchery here, so it uses a fair amount of power during the winter months. So it was off because I keep it on a timer so that in the winter I only run it 8 hours a day.
Right.
And in the summer, 14.
So, Derek, my question is, you're able to switch off and on from Con Ed, from the regulated monopoly. Did you need to get permission to do that, or did you just set it up, or what?
No, I don't need permission. What I need permission is if I was going to try and sell the excess I have in the summer. The summer I make too much sometimes.
Yeah.
So right now it's just wasted. So if I was to try and sell the excess, that would be a process.
Right.
I wouldn't. They wouldn't approve this. They would not approve it. It would be installed by a professional electrician, probably.
Well, that's why you're in an undisclosed location.
Yes.
But that's really interesting.
You see all these alternators and treadmill motors down here?
Yes.
This is something I was working on. I haven't gotten it to work very well. What I was trying to do was to make a booster for the solar power by running a bicycle onto one of these motors. I got it to work, but just the voltage that it was able to create, even for 30-40 minutes, was not enough to make much of a dent into the daily usage.
That's a pretty ingenious thing to do. I just bought an electric bicycle, and it turns out that they don't have, while you're pedaling, it actually does not generate electricity. Even
it doesn't charge. No.
No, it doesn't. So there's some room for an inventor to come up with something like you're doing there for electric bicycles.
Well, Derek, that's really impressive. And I guess like that's long-term storage, right? That would help you out as far as the overproduction in the summer, right? Like if you could bank that for a long-term storage to get into the darker times of the year.
Yeah, but I feel like storage is the weak link of solar power. I mean, these batteries. How long does a battery really last?
Right.
When fully charged, because these batteries, like in a car, like in a regular car, your alternator would charge a battery to 14 volts, but as soon as the alternator goes off, it's down to about 12.2.
That's right.
And it's not, once it gets to 12.2, it's effectively dead by 11.4. So the amount of usable storage in a battery is relatively small.
You changed the alternator on my motorcycle, Derek.
I remember that. No, I think your starter.
Yeah. So Michael, do you want to talk? Does that look familiar to you, Michael? That kind of stuff?
It does. I mean, definitely the concepts, right? And then I guess are those deep cycle marine batteries, Derek?
Yeah, they're actually designed just for solar storage.
Okay.
Yeah, they're called AGM gel batteries. this Renogy is like supposedly the Mercedes-Benz of solar and wind power.
And what did that set you back, Derek?
I think I have 3 of them. I think each one was about 300. And
Yeah,
you see they have 2 handles. They're like about the size of 2 regular batteries, 2.5 regular batteries.
and you said they weigh 200 pounds?
Yeah, something like that. It was like every time the UPS guy comes with one, he calls me because he can't get out of the truck.
Yeah, geez. And those, so I guess the chemistry there is a lead acid or but gel.
It's a gel, so it doesn't actually leak.
Right.
Michael, we were talking last time. You were looking into different alternative ways to store energy long term. Some type of thermo thing with sand or
Yeah, they do have I forget the name of the facility, but I think it's out in the California desert where they have concentrating solar power. So they have a big array of mirrors that shine onto a vessel that melts or that has salt. So it melts the salt. So there's molten salt. And I guess that the capacity of the molten salt to hold heat is very high. So it can generate steam long after the sun goes down. But I don't think you can go more than, maybe 8 hours or 10 hours or something like that. But
and that's not
some
necessarily
storage
for home use either. I mean,
right. Yeah, they're getting bigger with battery storage systems. Con Edison, they put out a request for proposals, and I think they awarded a couple contracts for a system in Astoria, Queens, and it's a couple 100 megawatt, I believe. I might be wrong there. Trying to think how big that system is. It might be a 100 megawatt battery, but sort of the size of shipping storage containers, like it's containerized storage.
right.
And I think that the chemistry there is lithium ion, but again, they're just looking for 4 hours of capacity for them to discharge for 4 hours. So the idea is to use those during peak summer periods, like in the afternoon. So that's sort of short term, but they can cycle those many times. So many events.
Michael, we had electrical shortages in New York City recently, didn't we?
Yeah, I think there's been brownouts. I think in Park Slope a couple years ago. I know there was they shut down power. There was I guess a lot of I know that a couple grocery stores lost a lot of food. A lot of inventory. I think that also affected Queens too. I think Queens, there's a section in Queens that particular part of the grid is chronically sort of under served or doesn't have enough capacity. So they're trying to incentivize distributed energy there and energy saving stuff like lightening the electrical load there. So
that's what you do, Michael, right? You help homeowners and co-ops with what exactly?
yeah, I go out and I do technical site assessment. So like Derek, for your place, like what you're doing, and that the sun is going to be hitting your roof and your shed, so that those were good locations to put panels. So I'll just go out to a building and confirm that there's enough sun that's going to hit that location, so that it's going to produce enough energy over the course of the year. And the systems I'm looking at, those are going to be grid tied. So that's when what Derek was talking about, when you can sell back to the grid that energy, and that's heavily incentivized. Yeah. Those systems that are grid tied, like they can be maybe 75% of the cost of the system, through federal tax incentives and state.
Yeah, I have something on that. Why don't I share my screen and show you an example of the way some of the incentives work. So let's give that a try, okay? Yeah, green subsidies. Yeah, so this is from Washington, D.C. There's a group of people building, homeowners in Northwest D.C. are getting together to buy bulk purchase of solar panels. And I think I should say something real quick about the solar panels, you know, being the classical liberal, or this is a show about classical liberalism, is that we have trade barriers against Chinese solar panels, right? And those were put under the previous administration, the Democrats put on trade barriers against Chinese solar panels. So Michael and I live in a co-op, and Michael's been making us, basically Michael keeps the lights on. And so we had to use Spanish solar panels, right? So, you know, I just find it hypocritical to give subsidies while at the same time making the equipment more expensive. So, right, so it costs per house $13,000, and then after all the subsidies and everything, it's only $3,000, right? So they get 10% or 90% subsidies. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then we only have 5 minutes left. Yeah, we've only got 5 minutes left. Anybody have anything they want to talk about?
Well, the important point about the grid tie. Grid tie is probably more economical than DIY and off-grid, but it leaves you dependent upon the grid. So if there's like you're not saving any of that, you're not diverting any of that generation for your own use. You're sending it all back. So if there's some kind of service interruption, you're not in a position, because you have solar panels on your roof, to make use of that power.
So when we have martial law, you're ready.
Yeah. And unless you go and you splice into it, and you at that time, the way it's set up, you're not getting access directly to that power. You're in a blackout with everybody else.
Yeah, and like you say, Derek, sort of that transfer switch where you can switch off, like that's the key component, right? You can kind of separate, you know, your load from the grid and your production, right? So you're no longer kind of dependent on the.
The transfer switch it's electromagnet. It's based on when the current coming out of the default is too low, there's like a big fork, and it switches over to the grid as the backup.
And where did you get that transfer device?
eBay.
On eBay.
Yeah.
So this is the what I wanted to mention. So this is from the Foundation for Economic Education. It's called A Republic If We Can Keep It. And he's talking about how the founders of the country, both the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, were classical liberals, or what we call libertarians. And he said, keep in mind that virtually all the leading figures in this great debate were libertarians by today's standards. They believe in liberty and limited government. Even the least libertarian among them would be horrified if they could see how later generations have ballooned the size and intrusiveness of the federal establishment. It never occurred to the most ardent Federalist that government should rob Peter to pay Paul for his health care, artwork, alternative energy, prescription drugs, hurricane relief, or his notions of regime change in Somalia. So I guess I'm asking, you're both environmentally conscious. Do you think that these subsidies are a good thing, getting 90% off, and then with the trade barriers against the Chinese, or is it all just a hypocritical?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's an expensive technology, because I guess even though it's not new, you know, I think it's been around since the 50s. And I think it was sort of in the space program when they first
reverse
started.
engineered from the Roswell UFO, 1947.
37?
I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, the incentives, yeah, that's the tool, right, for the policy, you know, that, you know, to sort of
Yeah,
have that technology make inroads.
yeah,
And
but my thing is that people, we're all environmentalists. Wouldn't we be doing that voluntarily without subsidies? And if you had free trade and
well, Derek, you've done it right on your own.
Right. I mean, in my view, if something is economically efficient, wouldn't there be enough incentive on that basis alone to
Yeah.
transfer over?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think the thing with this technology, it's sort of remained technical and not very user friendly. It's still not marketed to sort of do it yourself, install it yourself. It's sort of marketed directly to professionals, to engineers, to building construction. It's not really marketed in a way that people can easily access it, the way you plug in a laptop or something.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think, there's some places where there are no incentives. Like I think with the RV community and camping,
Wow.
so there you can go and buy solar power backpacks, for charging your phones, and small folding solar panels, and even put solar panels on your RV. And that's, I guess, efficient because there's no incentives in there, right? For that application, where if you're in an RV and you're going off grid, you don't have much of a choice, right? Or you might go for a generator, a gas generator, but
Propane or something.
Yeah,
That's what
but I
people are
guess
doing in the South because of all the hurricanes. A lot of people, and in Northern California.
That's not served. You're living way out in the wilderness where you're not served by any grid anyway. I guess it would make it feasible, the fact that we have these options to live there.
Okay. So any last, our time's up already. Maybe we'll do another one in a year and a half and check in and see where we're at.
yeah, it's a really great industry in a field. It's happening so quickly. I think the changes, and even electric vehicles are sort of coming online now. It's a really interesting time for all this alternative energy.
Right. So I'd like to thank Michael and Derek for joining us on Hardfire Media Liberal Conversations. And for those of you watching us on cable or at home on YouTube, thank you very much. And we'll see you next time.